Is it a milk on a roof?
Probably.
What is this? See what GoNano can do on a 20-year-old roof. Don't replace, protect. That looks like animation, not like real video. I want to talk to these guys. I want to see what they do. Interesting. Thank you, brother. Taddy, my brother just showed me this video, GoNano company. I want you to schedule a Zoom call with them. I want to interview those guys. Looks like they're pouring milk on the roofs and they claim that it's never gonna leak again. I want to see what's up.
Alrighty, what's the name of the company?
GoNano.
GoNano, absolutely. I've heard great things about them.
Manufacturers know this problem. They know what they have in their hands. They know about the testing. They know about the weakness of their products. What's stopping manufacturers to do what you've done, invest in technology like this to essentially improve their product?
You know it. You exactly know the reason, and you want me to say it.
They knew their product better than anyone, and they didn't. I mean, Shingle did not improve in the past 20, 30 years. So it's the same product essentially.
People are using nanotechnology right now to solve cancer issue, right? We're not saving life, we're saving roof, okay?
So Jonathan, I'm going to start with the first question about your company marketing promise is very aggressive. Instant results, permanent protection. I would like to hear the brief history of the company. What do you guys do? I know you're not only in the roofing space. I see that you cover wood products, concrete. Give me technology introduction. Give me the company introduction, the story behind GoNano, and story behind your marketing promise.
Excellent, perfect. So first of all, thank you for having me today. And so yeah, GoNano, it's been a long journey, right? We've been out there for over 4 years now. It started here in Quebec, Canada. It's not my first enterprise. I've been in business for the past 12 years now, launching different product. Before that, I was in nano space, but in a different area totally. And at one point, I just sat and I was looking at a roof. I was like, how there's nothing that exists to prolong the life length of roof, or at least protect the roof. So that's the main idea. The idea started there. After that, started to doing a lot of research. What I found is not necessarily connecting directly to asphalt shingle roof, but I found a lot of research about asphalt pavement industry. So the American Society of Civil Engineers, or a lot of publisher decided, or researcher across the world in university decided to do more research about asphalt technology and how to make sure that asphalt lasts for longer. So I started there, saw that there was a lot of benefits of adding nanoparticle to an asphalt driveways or roads. And at that point, I was like, oh, we can probably do the same for roof. So that's really the beginning of it. After that, started working with what we call the National Center in Electrochemistry here in Canada, so that we can really come with a product, develop a product, see the benefit, how it bonds with the structure of the shingle. And at that point, we really were able to see, okay, there's a distinct difference between an untreated and treated shingle with GoNano. And from that point on, we just decided to continue, and we're still in R&D, always improving the product, seeing new ways on how can we make it even better and better years after year. So that's really where it all started.
Tell me about your testing. Tell me, for a company that's been around for 4 years and your promises is getting better by 10, 15 years, how the testing was done and what kind of feedback, if any, or pushback from shingle manufacturers, because you're a disruptor in a multi-billion-dollar industry. You have average manufacturer that has billions of shingles, right? In sales, and now you come off and say, hey, I can seal it, I can extend the light. I know from similar to your product, anybody who touch, whether clean or rejuvenate shingles, they did have pushback from asphalt shingle manufacturers. Did you experience any of that? Because, common problem is voiding their warranties and also their claims. They now have 50-year warranty shingles, right? And now you come in and say you can add 10, 15 years. Like, what kind of testing you do with asphalt shingles and what kind of feedback you're getting from the industry and manufacturers?
So that's a really great question. First of all, we started here in Canada, and I think in Canada we have the worst climate ever, right? Because now we have over 50 freeze to cycle per season during the winter. And you see here, most of the roof needs to be replaced every 13 years. And so we started here basically. And after 2 years of being out there doing tests and testing our product, we saw that people didn't really have to replace their roof anymore. And we got a lot more testimonials about that. So that's where it started. After that, doing tests with third-party laboratory is really, really expensive. But we went that route. So that's why not a lot of people started to hear about us at the end of 2023, now 2024, going forward, more in trade show. The reason is we spent or invested most of our money in testing. So that's where we've been for the past 2 years, basically. So we did a lot of tests on wind, impact resistance, as well as the fire testing to make sure that we don't increase any risk or anything like that. So we did all of these tests with third party. One of the problems that we found, we haven't got really pushback from the industry or from the manufacturer directly, but what we found ourselves in is that we couldn't really go forward or further with these institute because most of these tests have been created by the industry itself. So creating new tests, they were not really okay going forward at doing new tests or creating tests on aging shingle, for example, where it's where we bring the most benefit, right? So with all these institute, we have to treat only brand new shingle because they wouldn't let us do treatment on older shingle because we couldn't really show what's really happening on a class 4 shingle or even a class 2 shingle 5 years during older or 10 years later, right? Because we all know that a class 4 shingle, it's not a class 4 shingle even 5 years after it's been installed.
Can you elaborate on that? Can you explain class 4 and what made you say that? Like class 4, 5 years down the road is different shingle now. Like, what do you know that average consumer does not know?
Okay, so basically what happens nowadays, I don't want to name because you know the reason is, but most shingle is what we call it's pre-oxidized bitumen now. So pre-oxidized, a really easy way on how to see it or how to understand it is if you're looking at a road when it's the pavement's just been created, right? The roads, it's really dark. Over a year, what happened is that it's getting dark, grayer and grayer. What's the reason behind that? It's oxidation. Oxidation, it's air that gets into it. The problem with asphalt, or not a problem, but how it's created, it's organic and inorganic. So everything that's organic is going to age. Things that are inorganic have less chance of aging. So what we saw is that during our tests and research is we found that brand new shingle are as oxidized as a 10 years old shingle from the past, basically. And you can look it up a little bit more. Tim Carter from Roofing Ripoff explained a lot about that as well, how he saw the market switching over the year, right? And how lighter a shingle is from 120 pound a bundle to 70 pound a bundle, but shingle are now thicker than what they were before, right? So what we saw is that a shingle, the oxidation process, a lot of people think that a roof's going to age really at the same speed, right? Year after year. But the actual truth is that a shingle is going to age faster and faster year after year. But now that it's really pre-oxidized, that process starts from the day that it's installed on the roof and even before that. That's why a lot of people will see a lot of loss of granules when they're doing the installation of a brand new shingles, is because it's all the oxidation process is already pretty started. So that's the main problem with the industry, is that the shingle, and if you're looking, we were in an SRC and talk with we have a lot of dealers or reseller in the Texas area, and they were like, yeah, I installed that roof 5 years ago and now I have to replace it because of one hailstorm. That's why as well, we've been testing a little bit with Building Expert Institute with math that he's been showing right in front of everyone a treated shingle with our product and the original shingle, and how much we improve the impact resistance of that same shingle. But after that, we can go even further. And just 2 days ago in Frisco, Dallas, what we saw is that he was like, how is it that that shingle is harder to remove from or to yeah, just to test and see the impact on there. And the reasoning is really simple. Nanoparticles are so small, right? So that's the main benefit of our product. It's not a product that attached at the surface. The real truth is from the inside that the modification is created. When I'm saying that is that for us, the nanoparticle, what they can do is that they take the place of the air inside of that shingle, replace that air with nanoparticle. So that's the main of it. But some of them will even go down and through the shingle and will help against the wind. So what we call is that what we had to create for a product, the big difference is we call it a double bond nanoparticle. So what's again different from concrete, for example, where it's only an inorganic material, which is a lot easier to create a product for that. Shingle are both organic and inorganic. So you have to create a nanoparticle that can connect to both. So that's why as well, you'll see that most of our customer will say that after the application of a product, they will see that, hey, there's not as much granules or not even any granule going down anymore because we attach them, but at a molecular level and not only at the surface, or it's not a glue, right? It's really at the molecular level that we change it.
Wow. Let me ask you this question. If all this information, like manufacturers know this problem, they know what they have in their hands, they know about the testing, they know about the weakness of their products, they 100% know, they employ scientists, they do the testing, they see the results. What's stopping manufacturers to do what you've done, invest in technology like this to essentially improve their product? And will they do it? Or like what's going on behind the scenes? Why wouldn't come out with a product like this?
You know it. You exactly know the reason. And you want me to say it, but some of them don't want it to really last for a long period of time. So that's the truth. People, so we went from about 170 manufacturers in the 80s in America to about 5 or 6 major ones, splitting like you said, a multi-billion-dollar market. And one of the things that happen is that when you're in business, right, and you're a publicly traded company, what's important is that your revenue increase years after years because you work for the shareholder, not for your customer anymore, really. So the idea is you need to make more money year after year. So if you create something that doesn't need to be replaced, you won't make that much money because you already went through the whole system of buying all your competition year after year. So that's a little bit, I'm not putting all of them in the same basket, right? There's some of them that still have a lot of ethic and they are really looking into how can we make the market better. But some of them don't have all that same ethic and they're really, really working for their investor and not for their customer. So that's where, yes, we are a little bit like David vs. Goliath, right? The small company that comes, but we are looking on how can we help homeowners, but not only homeowners, but the planets. So that's really important for us. It's how can we improve the system when you're seeing that in the last 20 years, we created more shingle waste than the 100 years before that. There's a problem when it takes over 300 years to 400 years to decompose. There's another problem. It's tons and tons and tons of shingle that are going away every year, where our goal is to stop that while keeping people's money in their pocket.
Well, you represent this third-party businesses right now that's on a rise. It's a rejuvenation category that's already probably billion plus. It's Ugly Roof, it's Roof Max, right? And the reason rejuvenation exists for the same reason you exist, because manufacturers either fail to invest or improve their product or willingly decided not to install. I can see the logic there, and it definitely makes sense because they had the upper hand. They were trailblazers. They knew their product better than anyone, and they didn't. I mean, shingle did not improve in the past 20, 30 years. It's the same product essentially. The only thing improved that it got lighter. The weight went down.
If you're really looking into it, it decreased because a lot of people are like, oh yeah, now it's fiberglass. Fiberglass have been invented by Fry Roofing Company in 1977, right? So it's been invented. And the reason behind this wasn't because it was a better product. It's just because at one point paper felt was breaking during the manufacturing period because of the speed. So it was just a speed issue that they solved with fiberglass. So fiberglass has been out there for a long, long period of time. It's just that after that, they decided to go back to paper, and now it's really weird. Now we're back to fiberglass. But yeah, there's a lot of things that can be, I don't know. It will, again, we're not in these company and we don't know exactly what's happening. Some of them for sure are looking. I had a couple of conversations with past employee from these big company. Some of them give me some key insight, but yeah, they have the money. They have the money for sure to invest and create something new. But after that, I think it's how can you become a little bit, not more intelligent, but agile. And these companies, when you go really, really big, you're not as agile, or you're not seeing the trend, or you're not seeing necessarily what's going on in the market. And that's where maybe a small entrepreneur from Canada sees something that nobody else seeing, and start investing and proving his point over the year.
Got it. I would like to address the skeptics. You came to Roofing Process Conference, and I remember the very first night, the welcome party is happening. We have a private concert, awesome thing happening, and I see a small crowd next to your booth. You know, you've been surrounded by 5-6 guys who are just roasting you. I'm like, what's happening? I thought we were going to have a fist fight there. And those people are very skeptical about your claims. Let's talk about skepticism. What do you say to the contractors who think that it sounds too good to be true, you're too new to make such claims? What do you answer? How do you back up your promises?
Which is true, right? And I totally get it. And I don't take it personally. The reason is normal, right? There's so many. There have been so many companies out there trying to, we'll say it, BS people, right? Over, a magic product and whatever. I think what we did differently than everybody else is invested about $500,000 in tests just to prove the efficacy of our product. So we have all of this data. After that, we haven't stopped there. We're still doing tests, right? We're always out there. So I think that's really the way that we've been able. A lot of people have been seeing us online, but now, like we were at your show, we're not only coming and telling people, we're like, hey, look at it, and we're gonna even do tests in front of people so that they can see it, right? So where most company, right, and I saw a couple of videos of their company doing in front of people, and it didn't went the way they wanted to be, right? But us, we're like, no, let's do it, let's go it. And every time that we did it, we prove our point. So the way that we've been able to overcome that is with data. So data is where it's really important. You can say whatever you want, but after that, you need data, you need third-party data, and you need to work with people that are that people trust in the industry. And that's exactly what we've been doing for the past 2 years now. It's really gathering all of this data. The other reason why we did gather all this data is because we have kind of a direct access to the insurance industry as well, right? Because when they saw our product, they were like, that's amazing. We want to be part of it, right? Because we're a little bit more on the side of the insurance industry than the manufacturing industry. Because the insurance industry likes us, right? Because we have the data that shows that we can save them money, right? Because even if the manufacturer is saying the same thing, they know by now that it's not necessarily the truth, right? And that's where insurance industry will say to us, yes, we've been giving discount to people for class 4, but we're seeing that we have to replace the roof anyway 6-7 years later, right? So there's something that doesn't work along the line of what's been said and what's been whatever. So that's the way that we've been really able to overcome that. It's really sharing the data, explaining to the people, showing that it's even the same for consumer, right? Consumer has the same skepticism about our product, which is okay. We totally understand. That's why we try to put as much data as possible so that they can really understand what we are doing. And yeah, that's the main thing.
How is it different from painting products? We recently called out Shingle Magic. So Shingle Magic, it's pretty much spray paint, right? And I talked to dealers who were installing that, and they have leaks, they have problems because Shingle is water shedding material. If you paint it, now the water can trap, you have mold issues, stuff like that. How's your product different from something like Shingle Magic? And what's your take on Shingle Magic product?
I won't share my take on any other company. I don't want to enter into that. I
Sure.
just talk about us, but I can explain rapidly. So most people, what they know about the industry is that there's two types of product. Is what we call surface sealer and penetrating sealer. Okay, that's the two categories. So on the surface, you have acrylics, silicone, blended coatings, right? Pretty much all of that's sit at the surface. Like you just said, the problem with these products is that they can peel, they can be removed, trap moisture, trap humidities. You need to prep the surface. You need to do all of that before applying this product. So the risks of creating a problem are much higher. The other thing is that if you have to remove that roof, right, it's going to cost a fortune just because it's all a big glue. And after that, it aged because a surface sealer is a polymer. A polymer breaks over time. The big difference is that we're in nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is we're not doing anything at the surface. What happened at the surface is just a result of what's happening inside, basically. So we modify from the inside out. So that's a big difference. So the nanoparticle penetrate, take the void of the air inside, change that. So after that, we apply our product into an asphalt shingle. If you look at the FTER spectrum, you can see that's really similar to an SBS membrane. Okay, so it's really, really similar to an SBS membrane. So that's the reason why we increase flexibility, impact resistance, all of that, right? Because we turn that regular shingle into basically an SBS membrane after that we apply our product. So it's a modification that happened from the inside. What is great is that our product is not, we'll never say it's waterproof. It's hydrophobic. Do you know what's the difference between waterproof and hydrophobic?
Not really. Explain it. Well, I've read about it, but explain it for our listeners.
Okay. So hydrophobic means if you take two magnets, right, and you put them on the same pole and you try to stick them together, they want to repel each other, right? They don't like each other. That's hydrophobic. But if you put enough pressure, you can make them touch, right? So they might get touched. Waterproof is where, for example, it's a really layer that stopped the water from penetrating, right? Where the other competitors had some product like that. So it's at the surface. But again, the problem is that you trap everything inside, right? So it's like a big glue to the roof. But hydrophobic, what the greatest benefit is that we just don't like water. We repel water. But it doesn't mean that we stop the breathability of that roof. The roof will breathe as good as it was before, because we only stop the water under the form of H2O, but the vapor can still pass through. So there is not change at that level.
I see. What about other roofing materials? Can you install it on rubber shingles or clay tiles, maybe? And what about metals? Because roofing has wide variety of the products. You know, you have concrete tiles, and I know you do apply your product on concrete. But what about rubber, metal, and clay?
That's a really great question. So one of the best thing about nanotechnology, right? I think the best thing about it is that you can modify everything that you want, right? People are using nanotechnology right now to solve cancer issue, right? You can save life. It's saving life right now. We're not saving life, we're saving roof, okay? So it's not the same thing, right? But after that, everything can be at the nano level, everything can be modified. Because a lot of people are like, oh, a window, can you modify a window or metal? Yes, because even if you're not capable of seeing it with your eyes, right? You can, there's void between metals, right? It's not as perfect. If you look really, really deep into a microscope, it's not a perfect surface, right? There's a lot of void into it. So after that, when you enter the nanotechnology realm, it's only the size of the particle that you're using. So it's a lot more expensive to create a product from metal because you need to use now a much smaller nanoparticle to penetrate that metal, right? When asphalt shingle or concrete, we might not have to use as much of a small. But saying that, for 2024, actually, we're going to launch pretty soon a new product for metal. because we've been having a lot of people requesting a product for metal. For cedar shake, we've been installing it on cedar shake as well. So for that type of material, we have the solution for that. After that, SBS membrane, or a roll down asphalt or ALS geometric membrane or torch down asphalt roof system, right? There's so many names. We can work on that. So right now we only work on SBS asphalt shingles. After that, it works on rubber. We've seen it, we tested it, but why we are not marketing it is because we don't have enough data yet. We never launch something until we have enough data on how well it works long term. We know it works short term, but what we want to know is long term. So that's why we haven't launched that division yet. But yes, after that, concrete, we have it as well. Now there's a lot of people asking us about tile, clay tile. We're looking into that market as well. It's just a little bit more difficult to sell because a clay tile is going to last for 50 years. So after that, it's more an issue of aesthetic. But after that, we have a lot of people who are interested in Florida because, as you might know, our product is not only increasing the impact resistance, the wind resistant, the weather resistance total, the waterproofness of the shingle and the aging, but it's going to make the shingle even cleaner over time. But same thing for all the other surfaces, because now there's nothing that accumulate on it, and we turn the surface inorganic. So that way nothing can really grow. So you don't have to wash your concrete or your clay tile eventually as much. So it's more aesthetic, but a lot of HOA ask people to wash their roof a lot of time in Florida. So we see eventually a benefit of going to that market as well.
Got it. My last segment is I want to talk about pricing and cost. One of the big criticisms that Elon Musk had when he introduced solar roof, Tesla solar roof, it was the cost. You know, he made claims that, hey, this beautiful tile going to cost you less than a regular roof, which was BS because, you know, if you look today, even considering solar savings, it still costs way more because it takes forever to install. The cost is so expensive. So sometimes we have great technology, but it costs so much, it's hard to justify. That's one of the reasons not everybody need a solar roof. Just because it's great technology and you can use the energy, if it takes you 50 years to have return on investment, it's more bad than good. So in your case with GoNano technology, how much does it cost and how easy it is to justify the investment to get that extra 15 years, 10 years, whatever?
So again, great question. Basically, it depends, right? Because the way that we work, we sell a product directly to our network, and the network will install the product after, make a markup for sure. And after that, there is a lot of things that can come into play, right? The size of the roof, how pitched the roof. But a major big difference with our product, like you were talking about the other company that install a surface sealer at the surface.
At the cost, and I'll interrupt you there. So that was actually a great example. Shingle Magic, they were charging more money to paint the roof than to replace the roof, and that was our biggest problem. So where are you at? Like rejuvenation cost about 25-30% of the cost. So if a roof costs $10,000, you can rejuvenate it for $3,000, so 1/3 of the cost. Shingle Magic was the same price. Where are you at? Like, what do you see your dealers charge? Is it half of the cost of new roof? Is it 30%, 20%? How do you compare as far as cost goes?
So we're going to have a lot of different, right? We have two different products as well. A big difference between us and the other product out there, like again, surface sealer, is that they need prep time, and the installation, it takes a lot of time compared to ours. There's not really any prep time. The reason is that we're not doing it at the surface, we're doing it internally. So even if there's some algae on the roof, it's not a big problem. And if there's moss and everything, yes, it's a problem, right? But if it's not too much, we can go over it. We penetrate the surface. We don't really care. In fact, it's going to go away over time. So that's what most of our customer will say is like, hey, since I've installed that, my roof looks better and better months after months, which is normal because we change the surface from organic to inorganic, and algae needs water to feed up. Now there's no water inside of the shingle, so they can't. So to come back to the price, so we have, I'll say from 85 cents a square foot to about $1.45 a square foot. So that will be the average. We have some of them selling a little bit over that just because of where they are located or how complex the roof is. But most of the time, I'll say we try to say to your reseller or dealers or network to be at about 10 to 18% of the cost of replacing the whole roof. So that's where we want to really land. And that's why we see other rejuvenation company selling their product pretty much at the same price that we do, right? Where our product is much more advanced in technology. But the idea behind that is that we're not necessarily looking for big profit right now. What we are looking for is establish our name, but not only that, to prove that it works and save people's money. So that's the main goal. And we're not looking at how can I make as much money as possible on that roof, but how can I make as much roof as possible? So that's where you are at the sweet point, right? And that's why 6-7 months ago, we just launched GoNano Revive. At the beginning, I'll be honest with you, we were in the space where we were more on the newer roof. The reason is it was 100% nanoparticle. 100% nanoparticle is great for brand new roof to like a 10 years old roof. But after that, there's so much oil loss of that roof, right? And there's so many problems that comes because of oxidation that you need to replace that because nanoparticle needs to connect to something so that it can perform well. So we launched 6-7 months ago, GoNano Revive, where it's a mix of bio oil with nanoparticle in it, where the big difference between us and the other guys out there where it's only oil that they're applying to your roof is that for me, oil that you apply to your roof, it's like putting something cream on your hands. And after that, if you go wash your hands right away, what's happening is that creams go away, right? Because it's not really well connected. And we have a little bit of data as well about that because we've tested their product. The big difference is we're putting that oil, but we're connecting that oil to the roof. But not only that, after that, because it's hydrophobic, there is no water running down the roof and removing that oil over time. So that's how we can really say that we give more life and more time with one treatment of GoNano compared to all the other company out there.
Got it. Last question. What's your supply demand looks like? How fast can you fulfill the orders? You're in Canada. How do people buy it? Is it directly from them? What's the lead time? What's the expectation? Some of the newer products, they have huge backlogs, and even if you like the technology and the product, you might wait a couple of years. Like, what's your situation with the supply and demand? And also, does product go bad if it's, what's the shelf life of it? Like, once you ship it, can they store it for 6 months, or they have to install it fast?
Yeah. So yes, the manufacturing is made in Canada. So that's where it starts from. But after that, we have warehouse in the US. So after that, we don't sell by third party. People are buying directly from us, roofer companies, whatever. They buy directly from us. And from the day that they order, normally 5 to 7 days later, they receive their product, depending on where they are in the States. Another things that you just mentioned is how can we make sure that we can supply the demand? We've been hit by COVID, right? Everyone's been hit by COVID. And I think for me as an entrepreneur, I had to learn a lot about that. So I learned about a lot about supply chain at that moment. So, and that's another reason why we've been out there, but not putting as much marketing as some of the other guys, because we've been building our inventory and manufacturing for a while now. So, because we know that, and right now it's going really, really quickly. So we have enough products. We're always looking forward and on how can we be sure that we have enough product to supply the demand. And so, yeah, great learning curve from COVID. We learned supply chain issue. Now it's solved. And we are always in a purchase schedule. So we always figure, okay, where we're going to be in 3 to 6 months, we start at that point, start manufacturing at that point for be ready in 6 months. So that's been our whole process since the beginning. After that, for the shelf life, as soon as they receive the product, they're good for about a year of shelf life. So, but most of the time we don't have a big MOQ, minimum order quantity. So most people will go through their order in 2 weeks to a month. So if you still have your product in a year, I'll buy it back from you because there's clearly something that you don't understand. But yeah.
Love it. Any other comments, any other questions that was very important to you that I did not ask that you want to cover?
I mean, one of the things that we saw recently is that, like I said, we started to do our own tests and work with now not recognized third party, but with more labs. So we've been working with Green Center Canada here. And basically what we decided to do is create a new test. So we call it the GoNano test, where it's a class 5 to 6. So it's a 3-inch steel ball, 3 pounds dropping from a 10-foot pole. And let's say the energy, kinetic energy of when a class 4 balls land, it's about 24 joule. And our test is 50 joules.
Wow, double.
Okay, just to give you an idea. And what we've been able to do is that we've been finding shingle from everywhere, right? From brand new shingle to 15 years old shingle. And what we have as a data is that we can take a 12, 13, 14 years old shingle and making it more impact resistant than a brand new shingle. So that's where it gets really, really interesting. And for homeowners going with Gonano as a solution, you can go and be like, hey, and most roofer, I'll be honest with you, start understanding that, hey, 5 years later, we need to maintain the roof. Why are you maintaining your car? Why not maintain your roof, right? And it comes with the same ideology, even more now that the insurance industry is going away from insuring roof. So if there's hailstorm in your area, your roof is not covered. That's what's going on for 2024. So that's why we're seeing a big growth, because people are getting aware that they have to do something about their roof. And yeah, and the other thing, maybe the other last thing that I might share is that most really large company, 50 to $100 million a year company, are now working with Gonano as their only product that they work with, because again, we're the only company with data and they see a vision. And I think right now the roofing industry is going from, hey, let's replace your roof, to we're going to maintain your roof, repair your roof, and create a new division. And most roofing companies, that's what they are doing. And now our product fall exactly there. And for a roofing company, normally they had only, let's say, 5 or 10%, even 5% of the whole market of roof. Now with our product, every house is a potential customer, where it's a big difference between us and all the other product out there. They only target the end of life of roof. We have a solution for brand new roof, and we have roofers that have been installing our product on brand new roof, and they're telling their the homeowner, hey, don't buy class 4 shingle. We'll use that shingle here that's cheaper, install Gonano, create a plan where we come back every 5 years so that we make sure that you're always on the top and making sure that your roof really lasts 50 to 100 years.
Love it. My wheels are spinning in my head with all information. You got me thinking. I've seen you at the expo. I've seen the presentation. Very impressive. The soda can is very impressive as well. All your videos are on point. They almost look like they're photoshopped or animated. Like the water looks like a milk. I'm like, what is that? Like, that does not look like a water. But if you look closely, it makes sense. So thank you so much for your time to explain it to us and our audience. Can I have your commitment to answer questions under this video from our audience?
Sure. It's going to be a pleasure. I'll already do it on Facebook. So it's going to be another medium that I'll be more than honored to do it. And if anyone has questions, just to shoot us an email or be part of one of our calls. We have 5 calls a week where we explain everything about our technology and the different space that we are and what's our story. And we're even going to share the data with you with our screen so that you can see exactly what I've been saying today. And yeah, or come to us in shows or whatever, and we'll do the test in front of you so they can literally see, like you said, the seltzer. It's a really good test on how to see how we saw the oxidation process of a shingle. But yeah,
love it. Love it. Guys, if you have any questions for Jonathan or Gonano, comment below. We read all our questions. We'll have them addressed and answered. Thank you so much for this. For your attention, sticking all the way to the end. Give it a like if you haven't done so yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video.